Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023. It's about 2:55 in the afternoon here on the East Coast of the United States. We are monitoring, and we will take you directly to the exterior of the courthouse before which and in which, President Donald Trump will soon be appearing at his historic arraignment, and we will be discussing all of this with truly one of the smartest lawyers I know, Susan Estrich. But first, this message.
When it comes to carrying valuables or even firearms in your vehicle, most people feel they have to choose between safety and convenience. A vehicle break-in occurs every 36 seconds in America. Give Dad the perfect Father's Day gift this year. The Headrest Safe. The Headrest Safe gives you the power to store cash, jewelry, medication, and yes, even your concealed carry firearm. You'll never have to worry about taking your valuables with you again. Keep them safe with the Headrest Safe. Use promo code JUDGENAP and enjoy $50 off for a limited time at theheadrestsafe.com.
Welcome back, my friends. Susan Estrich joins us now. Susan and I have a long and happy and largely public career together analyzing issues like this. Never one quite like this, Susan.
Never one like this, Andrew. This is
Right.
nuts. So, can you believe this indictment? I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Well, the last time we discussed an indictment on air was another indictment of Donald Trump, and it was the opposite of this. It was the indictment in the people of the state of New York versus Donald Trump for some alleged and convoluted, but they say they can prove it, economic crime, which they say, the government says, consisted of falsifying business records in order to hide a felony. This is a federal style. This indictment, of course, I got all my notes here, but this indictment, Susan, is one of the meatiest I have ever seen. I even discussed it with Chris Christie, who was the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey for 7 years, and then the governor of New Jersey, now running against Trump for the Republican nomination for president. But the two of us agreed, rarely do the feds, rarely does any government put as much evidence and detail into this indictment as this one. Why do you think they did that?
They had it. You know, this is really, this is historic, and this was an inside job. I mean, this is something, Donald Trump must be so damned angry, Andrew. I mean, this is his lawyer, who he obviously trusted, who he talked to very openly, who must have written down or tape recorded every single word he said to him, and he turned it all against him, and it's all in this indictment. And every word he said is in there. Have you ever seen anything like this in your life?
Well, no. I mean, and so the audience knows.
It's stunning, isn't it?
The audience knows what we're talking about. I mean, there are three sources of evidence in here, aside from the documents themselves. We're taking a look, Susan, at the exterior of the courthouse. I forgot this is Miami and their palm trees. The courthouses with which I'm familiar in the Northeast don't have palm trees, but whatever. That's the scene. Relatively calm. It almost looks like a bit of a festival. That is mainly the press crew outside the courthouse. There's a rumor, Susan, amongst the press people, it may be something they hope happens, that Trump himself is going to address them when this is over. As we speak, I'll get to the indictment in a minute, but as we speak, he is in the courthouse. He has been in that courthouse for about 20 minutes. He entered through a garage in the basement of the courthouse. It's not a public garage. It's available to judges and select courthouse personnel. He probably has been booked by now and probably is making his way into the courtroom. I would think with this level of attention, they'll be relatively on time. We're about 3 minutes before 3 o'clock here on the East Coast. The arraignment is due to start at 3. Now, Susan, we're talking about the sources of evidence. One is his own words from the tape in New Jersey. We can talk about that in a minute. He's boasting about having in his hands a plan to invade Iran. The other is videotapes of his aide, Mr. Nauta, taking boxes out of a storage room, feds going in the storage room, Nauta putting boxes back in the storage room, denying that he did it. So he's being indicted for obstruction of justice and for lying to the FBI. The third source of evidence against him is the documents themselves and their nature as NDI, National Defense Information. So it doesn't matter if they're classified or if they have been declassified. They avoided that issue by basing all this on NDI, which cannot be declassified. But the interesting part of this evidence, and the one that you've raised, is evidence that comes from the mouth of Trump's lawyer. What about the attorney-client privilege? Well, the feds pierced the attorney-client privilege by demonstrating to a federal judge, not the judge in this case, but the judge supervising the grand jury, that Trump lied to his lawyer, which caused that lawyer to lie to another lawyer. We'll call the first lawyer, Lawyer A, even though we know who this is, the second lawyer, Lawyer B. Lawyer B certified under oath that a thorough search for the documents was made and there are no more documents. So the feds knew that that was untrue, suspected that Trump had lied to his lawyer, subpoenaed the lawyers, subpoenaed their notes. The lawyers moved to quash. The judge held a hearing. Everybody testified at the hearing except Trump, who didn't want to testify. The judge ruled that Trump did lie to his lawyers and caused them to lie under oath to the feds. Therefore, there's no attorney-client privilege. Therefore, the feds can see and use his notes and the lawyer's notes and can interrogate the lawyer. What impressed you about this lawyer, Evan Corcoran, that's Lawyer A, and his note-taking skills?
I have to tell you, Andrew, all my years, I've never taken such notes like that in my life. This was a situation, let me just put this down. This was a situation where everybody was coming in protecting themselves. And I think Donald Trump expected a kind of loyalty that his lawyers were going to stand up for him, right or wrong. And that's just not the way it works anymore. His lawyers had ethical obligations and they were going to stand by them. And what happened here was his lawyers were, he was trying to use his lawyers to perpetrate a crime or a fraud. That's an exception to the rules of privilege. The district court judge had ruled earlier this spring. Can you take this call? Sorry. The district court judge had ruled earlier this spring that that this ruling would pierce the attorney-client privilege, and that was the end really for Trump on this one. Once you pierce the attorney-client privilege, those notes all came in, and Andrew, I've never seen a note taker like this guy. He took notes galore, and those notes are going to really the basis of this indictment. I don't know how he gets beyond it. Do you?
No. The notes reveal a plot to hide the documents. The notes reveal lying to the lawyer and causing the lawyer to lie to the feds. That itself is a crime, because the crime that prohibits lying to the feds also prohibits causing someone else, duping someone else to lie in your behalf.
Why, Andrew? That's the part I don't get. It's not as if, Donald Trump is not the Rosenbergs. He's not out to sell our secrets to the Russians. He's not out to spy for another country. This is, this is not a man who's out to sell our secrets. This is hubris gone wild. These boxes, he never meant to give away secrets. This was just him being Donald Trump. Why in the world would he risk his career, his presidency, his legacy, everything, his entire, reputation, this lunacy of what we're going through today? Why risk everything over these boxes. Why, Andrew? Tell me.
Well, Chris Christie, again, a fierce opponent of Trump's, theorized this. He said this on CNN last night. It made sense to me that Trump's ego is so enormous. We all know that. He admits to that, that he just can't fathom that he actually lost the presidency to Joe Biden. He truly believes that he won and that Biden stole the election. And to pacify his bruised ego, he wants to surround himself with the trappings of the presidency. He redecorated his office at Mar-a-Lago to mimic the Oval Office. He surrounded himself with secret documents, which apparently from time to time, one of this is on tape in New Jersey. He traveled with the documents. The documents were all brought to Mar-a-Lago, but when he and his family came to New Jersey in the summer of 2021, he brought the documents with him, which is almost sick. Why would one thing to keep them? It's another thing to travel with them.
Yeah, it's like craziness to say that the bathroom is the right place to keep documents. He's turning these Republicans into pretzels. I mean, they're looking silly trying to defend him. It makes no sense. And it makes no sense for him and his dignity to be put in this position. It really doesn't. I don't understand it. The hubris is out of control.
All right. The arraignment is about 2/3 finished. Trump pleaded not guilty in a clear, loud voice. He entered a plea to all 37 charges against him. He waived the reading of the indictment. Susan, I've done thousands of arraignments in my career as a judge. I cannot remember any in which anybody demanded that the indictment be read, but he quite properly waived the reading of it. Actually, his lawyer entered the guilty plea for him. He whispered into his lawyer's ear. I'm reading from an account of somebody that's in the courtroom, so forgive me for looking at my iPhone. The lawyer, Todd Blanche, not admitted in Florida, but admitted in New York, said, "We most certainly enter a plea of not guilty." The president was wearing a dark suit and red tie. He arrived shortly before 2:00 at the courthouse. Within 15 minutes, the processing was over. They did take his fingerprints, but of course, Susan, as you know, they do it today by an electronic scanner. They don't actually put ink on your fingers. I've been fingerprinted twice. Once when I became a federal judge, actually 3 times. Once when I was in the military, once when I became a state judge, and once when I was a candidate for the federal judgeship. And in those days, it was ink. And it took a long time to get that ink off your hands. Today, they put something clear on your fingers, and then the computer takes it. Anyway, I can't tell where President Trump physically is now. He is either in the courtroom or on his way out of the courtroom. Susan, very sterile, very pro forma, and largely benign for him. There was no mugshot. There was no weighing or measuring of him as there ordinarily is when they need to identify the defendant.
Andrew, it's a sad day. I think it's a really unfortunate day for our democracy. Look, I mean, I'm no fan of President Trump, but it's a sad day when you see a former president being charged with a federal crime. It's a sad day when you wonder why he's invited this sort of scrutiny for reasons that have to do with pure hubris. Had he simply returned all the documents in the first instance, what people need to understand is when they first came around and asked for all the documents back, when they first came around and he gave all the documents back, none of those documents that he first gave back are the subject of any charges at all. Those he gave back, he returned them voluntarily gave him back, fine, kosher, good luck. It's only the fact that he deliberately kept these boxes for reasons God knows. I mean, Chris Christie's got his theory, others have their theories, but who can understand why he would deliberately hide, even from his own lawyers who were hired for the sole purpose of helping him comply with subpoenas to produce these boxes? Why would you hire him from those lawyers? It makes absolutely no sense other than a sort of, childish insistence that you're above the law, which is
Why do you think?
frankly
Why do you think
wrong.
his two lawyers, names Jim Trusty and I forget the name of the other one? These are the guys that were negotiating with the feds as recently as 10 days ago to try and talk them out of indicting. Why do you think they quit the minute the indictment came down? They're not lawyer A or lawyer B, as far as we know. Do you think maybe they have some ethical issues with continuing to represent him? He didn't fire them. They quit.
I have no idea. There's something going on that's funny here. It just makes no sense at all. The whole thing makes no sense. But I think defending Donald Trump is a very difficult thing to do. And I don't second guess any of these lawyers. I think he put his lawyers in the most difficult position possible. I don't blame Evan Cochran, who was lawyer number one, for, I think what he tried to do was protect himself by voice recording every single conversation he had with his own client. And I can only imagine what a difficult position that must be to be in, that you're so nervous about protecting yourself as you're representing your client that you figure the only way to do it is to what? To tape record your own conversations with your client.
Right.
I mean, Andrew, have you ever been in a situation like that in your life? I've never
No, I
been
have
one like that.
in my years of practice, I represented some celebrities, the mayor of Jersey City, the head coach of the then New Jersey, now Brooklyn Nets, some other political figures, but never where I felt I had to protect myself from the client. But this is the reputation that Donald Trump has. Just an update. He's out of the courtroom. It appears as though he's going to leave the courthouse. We don't know. My producer, Chris Leonard, has heard rumors from his friends in the press corps that Trump is going to come out and say something. Well, if he is, it's going to happen soon. Of course, we'll bring it to you. As you can see, we have the feed. We have access to the cameras outside the access to the feed from the cameras outside the courthouse. The proceedings in the courthouse are completed. Let's talk about Walt Nauta, his aide de camp, his former chief valet in the White House. My guess is the only reason he was indicted is to squeeze him to testify against Trump. This is their MO. And in a conspiracy where you have the person they really want, you're going to indict some low-level people if you can, because they're your best witnesses against the boss, right?
He's the only one who didn't cave. I mean, he's the poor guy. Look, all the lawyers went along. The lawyers just one after another said, okay, we'll go. Once they won the crime fraud motion, the lawyers all went. And Walt, I mean, I hope he got a good lawyer.
It's interesting, Susan. His lawyer, name escaping me, is a candidate for a Superior Court judgeship in Washington, D.C. And during the course of plea negotiations, the feds mentioned to him that they knew that. Now, I don't know, is that some kind of a cudgel or a threat, or was it just, they Googled him and did their research?
To mean, Andrew? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know the context in which it was meant. I think that's what Trump was referring to when he was complaining about prosecutorial misconduct? I mean, are the feds saying, hey, Walt, cave and we'll get your lawyer a judgeship? Or if you don't cave, we'll make sure he doesn't get the judgeship? Quite frankly, they have no say whatsoever in a superior court judgeship that's appointed by the mayor of Washington, D.C. That's the level that I was, appointed by the governor of New Jersey.
That's what I would assume. I have no idea.
Well, I'm going to guess that Trump is not going to make.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to speak in Bedminster, isn't he?
Well, we know he's flying back to New Jersey, and we know that he has a fundraiser tonight, and we know that he is addressing that fundraiser, and we know that the networks are taking that address. Whether he's going to duplicate that and speak now remains to be seen. I want to see if there's any news here.
He's just going to do it again. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is something. Do you think he'll get away with it again?
No, I don't. I think
You
the feds
really
play.
don't?
I think the feds play hardball. I think they know. Forgive me for using this phrase. When you strike at the king, you must kill him. You know what I mean by that?
Yes.
They have an airtight and overwhelming case, and I think they're going to indict him again for January 6th. And then they're going to put him at the tender mercies of a grand jury in Atlanta, Georgia, and they're going to indict him along with Rudy Giuliani on that case. And he is going to be running from New York to Atlanta to Miami to Washington, D.C., because all four criminal judges are going to be demanding his presence when he'd rather be out there campaigning for president. That is going to rub a lot of Republicans the wrong way, but a lot of people will say due process requires that nobody is above the law's requirements or beneath its protections, and he can't be given a pass on this just because he's a former president or is running for president. Republicans will say they could have waited on this. There's no reason to go after him. They're terrified that he's going to be president. They want to stop him by these prosecutions. What do you think about that analysis? Susan?
I'm not sure. I think you might be wishful thinking. This guy is really stunning to me. I think he, one by one, he takes these on. I think this one he's going to get away with. I don't know about the rest. But I think this one he's reducing to paperwork. And I think
what is the defense? The Presidential Records Act is not a defense, and selective prosecution is not a defense.
I don't think he has a real defense. I think his defense is one juror.
Got it.
Do
you think, as I do, that Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted and that the FBI and the DOJ cut her a favor and that the people who complain?
No.
Well, now we're seeing, hang on, Susan. We're seeing the cameras focus on the courthouse door. I don't know if he's still in the courthouse. What do you think about the decision not to prosecute Mrs. Clinton?
I don't think she should have been prosecuted. Do you still go back and think she should have been prosecuted?
Well, she destroyed a server that contained 30,000 emails, of which at least a few dozen were in the same category as the 31 that were taken from his home that formed the basis for this indictment, SDI or NDI, National Defense Information. That's Chris, my dog. Chris, my producer. Chris, do we know if Trump is still in the courthouse? Chris Leonard? We don't know. Okay. Can we pick up what this reporter is saying? No, we can't.
We just know that somebody's walking around. Well, at least there's no violence. We should say that.
Right.
That's at least something to be said for today.
A mugshot on a T-shirt, even though there is no mugshot. So
right, I have seen that. Yep, it's listen, and those are Trump supporters selling those souvenirs. This is about glorifying the idea of a man they feel is wronged, and glorifying the idea of a man who's going to be charged and arrested. And the way I see it, with respect to T-shirts and signage with mugshots on them, is, hey, look, we don't agree with this, but we're going to celebrate the fact that our guy is getting this kind of publicity. That's what it feels like to me. Can't tell you whether they're selling like hotcakes. I didn't ask, but let's continue and keep it walking through.
But that's the local ABC channel in Miami. The young man's doing a great job. He's walking through the press area, but he's pointing out that even though there was no mugshot, as a courtesy to the former president, there are T-shirts with the former president's face on it being sold there by Trump supporters, saying, "Look at what they're doing to them," and they show the mugshot. I think we can safely conclude that he is out of the courthouse. We know the arraignment is completed. Well, there's a Trump supporter in an old-fashioned Hollywood-style prison garb. Today, of course, Susan, they're orange jumpsuits. They're not those stripes. Before we go, any last thoughts, Professor Estrich?
Oh, just that it's, we're laughing and smiling, but it is a historic day, and it's a sad day, I think, because we're at the first stage of what is going to be, if it goes through, a long process here. I mean, this is going to be a trial, and it's going to be very divisive and polarizing trial. The government has a very strong case. It's a very meaty indictment. It's going to have a lot of proof, and it's going to have, a very divisive and polarizing effect on people. And it's all very sad because it's all underlying it very sloppy, useless, and unnecessary. And I think that's just too bad. And I still, frankly, just don't get it, Andrew. I just don't get it.
We're going to take a break to pay some bills. When we come back, Susan, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to tell you ahead of time what I'm going to ask you. If the unthinkable happens, then Trump is convicted and sentenced to jail. And if you
want to feel safe in your vehicle, and for you, that means easy, rapid access to your firearm. But safety also means your items don't fall into the wrong hands. You don't have to choose between safety and convenience. The headrest safe keeps your firearm where you can access it, and no one else can. Just order your headrest safe, install it yourself when it arrives, and enjoy peace of mind. It starts at theheadrestsafe.com.
And he gets reelected from his jail cell. Can he pardon himself? Professor Estrich, Harvard Law School expert in the Constitution. Could Donald Trump pardon himself?
Yes.
Because the pardoning power is full and absolute, and there's no check on it.
I think that's probably right, isn't it?
I don't know. I mean, the whole concept of American jurisprudence is you can't be a judge in your own case. There are many, many cases that say that, and you can't pass judgment on yourself. However, I think if you look at the pardon decisions, the decisions in which pardoning power has been challenged and explained, it always comes out in favor
of the pardoning power.
Pardoning power. Well, they'll be talking about this, no question about it. Susan, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure. Some days more pleasurable than others. Some days more head-scratching than others.
Of course.
This was a head-scratcher.
We'll have you back again, my dear. I give my best to Joel Kaufman. Thank you for watching, my dear friends. Please like and subscribe. Colonel Douglas McGregor, Wednesday, tomorrow, 3:00 Eastern, back to Ukraine. More as we get it. If Donald Trump makes a statement in front of that courthouse and you're a subscriber, you'll know about it, and I'll be right here. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.
The headrest safe is quick and easy to use. Some may even call it a game changer. The headrest safe acts as a safety net, protecting your belongings while keeping them out of sight and out of bounds of others, serving as security while also keeping your valuables in bounds. That's what the headrest safe provides for me. Game, set, match.